Time now for some fresh business news, and for that I'm joined here in the studio by Brian Quinn. We're starting with the biggest news out of the US this hour, and that's of course the e-commerce giant Amazon deciding to pull out of its plans to set up a second headquarters in the Big Apple.
Right, the big HQ2 plan from Amazon, another surprise twist in that saga, as Amazon sought to expand headquarters operations beyond its Seattle home base with 2 new campuses in Queens and Crystal City, Virginia. Well, Amazon's deal with New York officials had been heralded as a potential jobs bonanza, but popular outrage against nearly $3 billion in corporate subsidies and fears of over-gentrification of the neighborhood where the headquarters would have been built ended up scuttling the project. Cole Stangler reports.
Amazon won't be moving to the Big Apple after all. The company is scrapping plans to build its second headquarters in the borough of Queens, pointing to opposition from state and local politicians, a disappointment for the city's mayor, who once welcomed Amazon's promise to create 25,000 jobs with open arms.
Look, New York City gave Amazon a real opportunity here. And all we asked was that they be a good neighbor and be part of the community, and clearly they weren't ready to do that. And it's very disappointing. There was no dialogue. There was no effort to work together. I don't understand it. I really don't.
Amazon claimed to have broad support, but many New Yorkers were outraged by the nearly $3 billion in secretly negotiated tax breaks offered to the company, which is owned by the richest man in the world. Labor unions also criticized Amazon's wage rates and its strong anti-union track record, as did progressive activists and politicians, including newly elected Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
They're taking advantage of communities that want jobs, that want good jobs. But here in New York, we want responsible corporate citizens. We want people to respect the communities, to respect their workers. Amazon was unwilling to do that.
New York State Governor Andrew Cuomo had a very different take.
I've never seen a more absurd situation where political pandering and obvious pandering so defeats a bona fide economic development project.
Despite the setback, Amazon says plans to build the other half of its second headquarters in Northern Virginia will not be revisited.
Next, high-level trade negotiations between the U.S. and China have wrapped in Beijing. U.S. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin calling the talks productive. He and Chief Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer are now scheduled to meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping Friday afternoon. U.S. tariffs on some $200 billion of Chinese goods are set to rise from 10% up to 25% on March 1st, as the U.S. seeks sweeping changes to Chinese economic practices like forced technology transfers and undeclared government subsidies to Chinese industry. President Donald Trump has said he may extend that March 1st deadline if a deal looks close, but progress has proven difficult so far. Well, Asian stock indexes lost ground Friday as investors cast a pessimistic eye on those negotiations. U.S. retail data and Chinese inflation both coming in under expectations. That weighed down shares as well. SoftBank shares lost nearly 4.5%. In Tokyo, the Nikkei index closing down just over 1%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng down over 2%. The Shanghai Composite off over 1.33%. Similar results for the Kospi in Seoul as Samsung shares lost over 3% there on Friday. European indexes opening mixed here, also focused on those trade talks. London's FTSE 100 just under the flat line at open. The CAC 40 here at Paris on the positive side. Frankfurt DAX is off around 0.4% at the open. Well, next, as Airbus shares are on the rise since the plane maker announced plans to say goodbye to its A380 super jumbo jet, but the company's employees are now facing a new chapter of uncertainty. 3,500 people work on the A380 program in sites across Europe. The wings of the super jumbo jet have been built in Wales, the tail in Spain, the body of the aircraft in France and Germany. The A380 was thus seen as a truly European enterprise. With that in mind, Airbus CFO Harold Wilhelm told France 24 the company is looking at options to minimize the impact on its workforce.
Now we have to work, with the social partners to see how we can reallocate most of the people to other programs, but it's too early to say how and when and what is at the end in the net impact of it.
Well, finally for business, never say never. JP Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon famously called Bitcoin a fraud and said cryptocurrencies were a bubble worse than the Dutch tulip mania of the 17th century. While time has not exactly proven him wrong, JP Morgan is now launching the world's first cryptocurrency backed by a US bank. The so-called JPM coin will be used to instantly settle transactions between clients. For now, it's just a prototype, only usable on the bank's internal network, but the bank says it will make the coin available on all standard blockchain networks. Don't rush out to invest in it. I would say, Thomas, as seen, Bitcoin itself has lost over 80% of its value since the December 2017 peak. So be careful with those cryptos.
Brian Quinn with the latest business news. Thank you very much.